2, 1. We're live, guys, with Biotech Scanner. Within the first few seconds, I almost made a mistake with your name, Biotech Scanner. Yeah, after you told me, listen, guys, there's a lot of uncertainty, FDA cuts. People are actually tweeting me, Biotech, oh, good luck with this FDA because they're not going to get a chance to approve this. I looked it up, okay? The majority of the cuts at the FDA were at the Office of Biologics, CBER. This pathway, 505b2, is part of the ANDA pathway, which goes to the Office of Generic Drugs. If you know anything about RFK and like this pragmatic administration, they're probably staffing more generic drug. If anything, this is favorable. So all you guys out there trying to be bullish or bearish, sorry, I enjoy it because I want to kick tires when I buy a car, but there comes a point where you're just doing it to do it, like not to. There's no rationale behind it. So look it up. Who's losing their jobs at the FDA? It's not the Office of Generic Drugs. So that's, take it how you want. There's a lot of sensationalism, and I'm all about due diligence. This is why we have Biotech Scanner on, and I'm very much for poking holes in our thesis. I'm buying every week. Lately, it's been every day more shares. So I do want to find something wrong with my thesis. It's not perfect, but we're here to address some of these concerns, primarily bracketing and all this stuff. But I just wanted to get into the holistic thing because people are like, "Oh, good luck with the FDA." They're lost. No one's going to be there to review it. No, that's actually equivocally false. It's the Office of Generic Drugs. There haven't been layoffs there, at least mass layoffs, like the Office of Biologics. So try something else, guys. But I like it. Keep coming. It keeps me sharp.
Yeah, this is people ask me and they'll tell you, so well, how come Biotech Scanner is always bullish? How come he didn't say anything negative about AQST or any ticker that I release? First of all, if there's anything that affects the company fundamentally, okay, I'll bring it up to you. I'll give you an example of X4. I gave everybody the warning that, listen, I don't like where this is heading. It's going to get a reverse split, and guess what's happening? It will get one.
Hmm.
But all of the minutia, all the minor stuff, that the negative stuff, I don't have to bring it up because the bears will bring them up for you. Trust me. Okay, they'll find and create things that are misleading and false, and will create FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So you can sell the shares to them cheap, and then they'll sell and make a profit, and and do that again. And there's a lot of that going on, and it's trust me, it's very frustrating even for me to remain focused on the messaging that, listen, this is what's happening. Is actually happening. This is what the company is doing. And it's amazing how much that the noise would impact these poor investors, right? Um, and especially the latest thing about the NDA. Oh, this is such a deceptive company. And I mean, you're talking about some of these are long-term investors believing that, okay, it's not coming, even though the company said we have until the last day of Q1. So
Yeah.
if you were to criticize the company, wait until the day after. Okay, so think about this, Dan. Let me ask you this. Okay, let's say you work for a company and you're supposed to be at work at 8, Is it fair to you if I were your boss? I call you at 7 and say, Dan, are you going to be on time? While you're on the way, you're driving to work, and I'm calling you, harassing you. Dan, how come you're not calling me to let me know that you're getting closer?
You'd be a tyrant. I wouldn't want to work there very long, you know.
And this is exactly what some of the investors did to AQST. The
Annoying.
day before, the day before, they were saying, this company, this terrible communication, nobody knows what's going on, there's something wrong. What? So what I'm saying is this is why 99% of retail investors lose. Because number one, they listen to the noise. Number two, they're too impatient. Number three, they're way too emotional. Okay. The share price is never, they never match up with the company. They hardly do. The most famous one is with Amazon. You know, and I've shared that video with Jeff Bezos talking about how his stock went from 116 to $10 in like 6 months or something like that.
Right.
So last year, AQST share went to 623 on March 18, and now we're at 3 something today. But yet, the risk is so much less now than it was on March 17th. Because since then, Anaphylm passed 3 more trials, you know, and then we also now have AQST 108 for AA, alopecia areata. That could, well, I'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what you have to recognize is that you have a tiny little company that's actually generating more than $50 million a year, which is very rare in small biotech. That is about to have a more than $1 billion per year revenue or sales. Okay.
God
So you're
willing.
talking about
God willing.
so you're talking about a massive leap. But
Yeah.
not just that, but the potential of partnerships with big pharma. Now, let me tell you about that. Dan Barber will not partner with small pharma. He already made it known. If you want to partner with us, you're going to have to be able to make us bolder and better with global footprint with a focus on allergies. So you think of Viatris, think of Novartis, you think of GSK, AstraZeneca is in play, and
AbbVie.
AbbVie. That will come. Okay, and then another thing is and then the companies brought on big guns. Okay, Sherry Krasinski, formerly from Mylan, and Mylan became Viatris. And then recently, Trish McAdoo to do as a VP for market access. And that is, that person is so right next to Sherry Krasinski. She's so important because you cannot sell your drug without approval of insurance. So Trish will make that happen.
What was her name again? I'm sorry.
Trish McAdoo.
Okay.
Okay. And guess where she came from? She came from AbbVie.
When was this announced?
It was never announced, and I was the first to release it on X for everybody.
I see. I'm connecting with her right now on LinkedIn. Yeah. Vice President, Commercial Strategy Leader, Market Access, Government Affairs,
Yeah.
Patient Advocacy. Pricing and reimbursement.
She, besides Sherry, she is who will make the prescription go through or not. That she is the money of the company. Okay, Sherry is the promotion and marketing, but Trish is the one that's gonna generate revenue, sales. Okay,
Yeah.
and so they didn't just hire some random person out, whatever pharma. This lady from
Wow.
AbbVie.
She came from AbbVie, before that from Allergan as the executive director of payer strategy.
Well, Allergan got bought by AbbVie. Okay,
Okay,
so
so she was an acqui-hire. Okay.
yes. So why did I bring that up? Because Dan Barber knows, the entire company know that they have a blockbuster on their hand, and they are going to go global on this. And so I think that day traders or short or whatever, they try and take advantage and trying to steal shares from folks. Okay. And so they have to, especially manipulative day traders, they jump in and out all day. Okay. So it could be within a week, they would, say, oh, it's not going to be approved and stuff like that. So people get scared, they sell and they buy, they sit on the bid. And then they would pump it up. Oh, AQST is great. I think this is going to be approved and all that. And then they do it again
Yeah.
after they sold for a profit. And you will catch this on stock tweets over and over and over again. Okay. All of these losers, okay, I call them, or roaches, and they do it over and over and over again. Okay.
We
So
gotta get some merchandise, man. Are you down to launch some merch while we wait for a year? We gotta
I
launch some merch.
yeah, the only I would say is it's just for fun, but I just want to be totally transparent. I don't want to make any extra money from anything.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'll launch
I
it for fun, but we gotta get you on a meme or something. On a
yeah,
t-shirt. We gotta get your face on a t-shirt with a roach spray.
yes.
I already got stuff planned. Don't
Oh
worry, I
man.
got this. By the way,
Yeah.
that Anaphylm party, once we celebrate, is gonna be legit.
Yep.
And I was telling people at the conference I came from, a bunch of research site owners. Of course, I was a AQST disciple, apostle, but I was telling them, this idea of a community that gets behind a stock, that's fans, they need a place to physically meet. And even if, let's say, God forbid, right, knock on wood, we get a CRL,
Yeah.
we can still do a meetup. We can just cry about it, and then these things are important, man. This is why so many people are tuned in to the live stream. I do have a few questions for you on the due diligence when we're ready, because people have been asking me, hey, make sure biotech answers some of this stuff. And so there's a few. I already gave them my answers, but they want to hear from you.
Yeah, sure. So as promised, the only stone that they have left, these shorts or day traders, is the bracketing issue that we may have. And to be honest and frank, it is an issue. It is an issue that is recognized by the CEO. It is recognized by me, by you. However, um, I believe it is solved. It is solved through evidence. Evidence. So let's start from, and I may be already answering some of these questions, through the presentation.
Yeah, I'll skip those ones that you already
Yeah.
answered.
So let's do bracketing, because that's the last, lingering concerns of people. So where did it come from? How did it come to be? And what happened now? So Anaphylm is a prodrug, and really it doesn't matter, but it is indicated. It will be indicated to treat severe allergy and anaphylaxis. Okay, so let's focus on anaphylaxis. Severe allergy by itself is no problem, but the anaphylaxis makes this drug a rescue drug. Now, unfortunately, unlike any other diseases where you can test sick patients and give them the drug to see how they do and how did they respond, with anaphylaxis, you cannot legally or ethically induce an anaphylaxis reaction and then give them Anaphylm. Okay, you're not allowed to do that. So you cannot do that. EpiPen didn't do it. IVQ, Neffy, nobody did. So how do they know if any of these epinephrine drugs, they know it's going to work, but how do they know EpiPen's going to work? How do they know IVQ is going to work? How do they know if Neffy is going to work or anything, right? So they have to use healthy volunteers, but what they rely on, they meaning the FDA, is the PK and PD profile. Okay, PK pharmacokinetics is what the body does to a drug. Okay, the movement, of the drug, the clearance, the maximum concentration, the Cmax, the Tmax. How long does it stay in the body? How long does it take to get out? What organs does the drug travel to? Things like that. Those are PK. Okay, so kinetic meaning movement. The other side is pharmacodynamic. That's the PD. The dynamic is what the body, what the drug does to the body. Is it gonna make them swell up? Is it gonna make the swelling go down? Does it make the blood pressure increase, decrease? Things like that. So it's the efficacy side. Okay. So most of the time, that is the money segment. It's the PD. It's where the rubber meets the road. Is the drug gonna work or not? Because many drugs, have wonderful PK profile, but after the patient take it, it didn't work, so they don't get approved. So many drugs still get denied with wonderful PK profile. Okay, so what the FDA came up with is to focus on the PK, the amount of epinephrine inside the body after epinephrine is given, either it's a nasal spray or the film. So let's focus on the film for Anaphylm. So what they want is, they want it to be tested against the manual injection, intramuscular injection, the auto-injectable injectors, EpiPen, RVQ, stuff like that, okay? And then generic EpiPen. So they want to see the levels, how long does it take to go up a certain amount over a span of time, the concentration throughout, the 1 hour, 2 hours. So what they want for Neffy, and in the case Anaphylm, is for Anaphylm to stay somewhere between, all of these other agents. They want the PK level to stay in between. Okay. So how did Anaphylm do? And the FDA was very clear that the PK is more important to them than the PD. Okay. The reason being is because they already know that epinephrine is going to work. All right. So how did Anaphylm do? Anaphylm did wonderfully. Okay. So in the single dose, there are two trials. I mean, in the trial, there's a single dose arm, then there's a repeat dose arm. All right. Repeat dose meaning you give them a second dose after the first dose was already given. Let's focus on the single dose. So what happened in a single dose? Wonderful. I mean, it showed, just really good takeoff to Cmax very quickly, and then it begins to taper off. All right. But at minute 45 to 1 hour, the PK, the concentration, the epinephrine concentration of Anaphylm dropped below the lowest level of the drug, which is the manual injector. Okay, so it dropped below it. Remember, our goal is to stay in between, but at 45 minutes to an hour, Anaphylm dropped below. All right, so let's address that. Now, is the FDA gonna not approve it based on that, right? Well, first of all, the FDA never said that at any time you are out of the bracket, we're gonna reject you automatically. If that were the case, they would have told AQST, don't bother submit the NDA, right? But they didn't. Now, so at 45 minutes it dropped. Now it dropped, even though it dropped below the IM, it was still above the efficacious threshold. All right, which is 100 picogram per ml. So even though it dropped below that, it still maintained above the 100 picogram per ml, which is the scientifically known efficacious level. It's known in the entire medical community. Okay, so I just tweeted out on May, is it May 11? May 11, 2023, I tweeted out to everyone. That is 2023. That's when ARS Pharma announced the recommendation from the AdCom committee for the FDA to approve Neffy. What was that decision based on? I'm going to read it to you. And this is the main thing I was so excited to. I've been holding this data for a while. Now, the reason they listed as to why the AdCom committee voted in favor of approval is comparable PK data versus intramuscular injection, including the first 10 to 20 minutes when clinical response is observed.
No, that's the exact FDA wording.
Yeah. So, why did I point that out? Why did I use the ARS press release? So what was the time frame that Anaphylm dropped below IM at 45 to 60 minutes time frame? But when is the most important time frame for these patients?
First 20 minutes.
First 10 to 20 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. So
which Anaphylm is the fastest at 12 minutes.
So there is your answer right there. Okay. At 45 minutes, like Dan Barber was saying, if it's not working, even at 25 minutes, you already would have given them a second dose. You don't want to wait. You see what I'm saying? So So the point being is it was way above those levels at 20 minutes, at 30 minutes, only another 15 minutes where it dropped below IM, but it's still 100 at 100 picogram per ml. Okay, so that's issue number one, and so that gives me a complete confidence that on the single dose that issue is not a problem at all, because the 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 approval right there of Neffy is mostly focused on the first 20 minutes. You see,
And sorry, just to make it clear, so that 45 minutes for Anaphylm, that was on a single dose, right? Not two
correct?
doses, one
Yeah.
dose.
So yeah,
And the therapeutic level is, what was it? The minimum.
100.
And
It,
the Anaphylm was what at that time point?
I forgot to check,
But
but
it's above.
no, yeah, it was above, and Dan Barber brought that up, that it maintained above 100 picogram throughout the entire trial.
Do you know if it was barely above it, or like why are people so worried about this, or significantly above it, or like
Okay, well, okay, good. Let's say let's say it's at it is above 100. We don't know the
yeah,
exact number.
yeah,
However, let's say it's 75, but it's not. Okay,
right.
I still think it's not going to be a problem because it's at 45 minutes and not
And
at
you
20.
have two doses also in the packet.
Exactly. That's why Dan Barber said you don't want to wait 45
Right,
minutes,
right.
knowing that it's not working
And
before
in
you
the
give a second
video
dose.
you tweeted out, which we should all do our own due diligence, by the way, like um the recent investor meeting with the, I think, Oppenheimer,
Lyrian.
where they, there you go, where they said, one of the guys, the CSO, his name's skipping me,
Yeah.
he said, we're aware of the bracket issue. We actually think it's a benefit that we're ahead of it. We're the fastest one to get to Cmax,
Yeah.
right? Within
I
12
think,
minutes.
I think you're right. Yeah, that may have been Oppenheimer, the guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I forgot his name. Anyways, uh,
Yeah, I have it written
okay.
down.
So that's the single dose arm. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is the fact that it remain above 100 picogram and at 45 minutes later is not going to be an issue at all, especially when the approval focus was the first 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
On the
But people are so caught up with this bracketing because it's what is known, and it, like, you're technically, the Anaphylm is an improvement. It's improving the bracketing problem because it's so advanced. It's before it's after the bracketing problem became the paradigm, because it's
yeah,
coming in
well,
earlier.
well,
Everything's
yeah,
earlier.
well, and I will address that, but
Okay.
I'll keep that. I'll save that until the very end because
Okay.
I think that will kind of wrap everything up. So let's go to the repeat dose arm.
Okay.
So the other perceived weakness, or the other moment that Anaphylm fell out of bracket was during the repeat dose. During the repeat dose, the levels were higher than any other treatment. Okay, and it fell out of bracket. Okay, so how? So what kind of? How big of a problem is that? Well, remember now, bracketing was just an idea. It's not a rule. Okay.
Right. Right. It's a
So
paradigm that's been
yeah,
established.
it's
And
just an idea.
yeah.
Okay. So again, the FDA did not say the moment you fill out bracket at any moment at all, you're gonna fail. Don't bother submitting NDA. But what the FDA says is if you fill out a bracket, you have to be able to explain yourself. And the company said, be glad to. Okay, so now let me explain the outside of bracket on the repeat dose. Okay. So when you fell out of bracket, when it's too high like that, so what do you, so when they're saying, if they're concerned about too much epinephrine, so what they're worrying about is heart rate, blood pressure, did somebody faint, did somebody have a stroke, did somebody have a heart attack? The answer is all you have to do is look at the safety profile in the repeat dose trial. Okay, no severe adverse event, and nobody had an event that required medical intervention. With that data, there is absolutely no way the FDA can deny this drug unless somebody went to the hospital, stroke, heart attack, or something. They saw nothing from phase 1 all the way to OASIS trial. And all the other trials in between, the acidic trial, the heat trial, the whatever, the
The
peanut butter trial,
pediatric trial.
pediatric trial, nobody was harmed. You know why?
No SAEs.
Yeah. So that's, and during the Oppenheimer conference, they were talking about that in the ER. You know, they were using epinephrine level at a much higher level in the ER
Yeah.
than is being given by Anaphylm. There is, with the safety profile that Anaphylm has or accumulated through all these trials, it is impossible to reject Anaphylm. I've been doing this for 19 years. I have never seen a drug with this efficacy and safety profile that's rejected.
You know what else is interesting?
Impossible.
Now that you bring this up, so during the self-administered test, remember that data that came out, I think in the summer of last year.
Yes.
It seems like so long ago now, but there was a self-administered test where Anaphylm was taken against EpiPen, right, or intramuscular IM. Sorry, it was not EpiPen; it was IM, and it was self-administered and it was nurse-administered. You saw the variability of the PK on the self-administered, not on the Anaphylm, but on the injections, all over the place. And some short people were sending me that screenshots. Look at, how can you trust, what kind of study, how do you trust the data they're collecting, what kind of site does this? And then I look closer, this is self-administered data. If anything, this is further proof that this is a better product, because Anaphylm was stable PK. There was no variability from the self-administered to the professional administered.
Yeah.
Whereas with the injection, of course, people are freaking out. How are they going to shank themselves in the thigh? So they're doing it sometimes less, less amounts. And you see that variability, which they were trying to use that as a weakness, that the site didn't know how to collect data. And then I looked under the hood. I'm like, well, this is actually self-administered. This is, if anything, I'm more bullish. This is, the FDA should see that and say, hey, most of these people are going to be self-administering this drug.
Yeah.
This is clearly an improvement.
And another thing that Dan Barber said is, and this is where I'm going to wrap up the bracketing. Okay. Bracketing asks the drug to be mediocre. But what if you have a Hall of Fame like Michael Jordan? You're basically saying, Michael, if you want to make the team, you cannot be better than this guy. And you cannot be worse than this guy. You got to be somewhere in between. But what if he's better than anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I use this analogy? Because Anaphylm is better than everything that is currently on the market. Why? Because the moment Anaphylm is given, it works immediately, and the patient gets a lot of it right away in a safe way. And that is what you want. You want to stop the cascade. Okay,
The
you
first
got
20
the
minutes.
the all of these cells that are releasing histamine is going wild. You got to stop it. You can't be
Constricted
like,
airway, all
yeah,
that stuff.
you got to. So what is happening with the manual IM is that the epinephrine levels kind of go like this, slowly.
Yeah.
And you have here Anaphylm's like, no, man, I'm gonna go be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right
Yeah.
here. Okay, I'm gonna stop this crap before it gets really bad.
The analogy would be like, um, you have a player who's better than anyone else, and they in the first quarter they already end the game, right? And then you're comparing it to somebody who's good too, but he makes his points in garbage time, like when it doesn't matter,
Yeah,
the game's over already.
that's a good point too. So with anaphylaxis, okay, what do they say? What do experts say time and time again? Is time is of the essence, right? So as manual injection, in effect, epinephrine levels is taking its time, and if it says screw that, I'm going up here. I am gonna stop these mofo's from doing a lot more harm. Okay, so so now on the repeat dose, and that's where the level gets high. Okay, so now back to the single arm dose. So it gets really high up, Anaphylm does, but it drops down faster than the other one. Okay, so just like a sprinter and a jog or whatever. Okay, so but the thing is, for anaphylaxis, you want a sprinter. You want a drug that works really fast. You know, it drops down fast. It's fine. You know why it's fine? Because you have a second dose if you need one. And when you get a second dose, Anaphylm got out of bracket again. It got out of bracket because it gets to a higher concentration quicker than the others. But the bracketing wants you to stay mediocre. And the film said, hell no again, because this time I better stop it, because if not, this patient's gonna die because
Yeah.
there's not a third dose. And the film works when the patient needs it most. At the beginning, give them a lot of it, and if it still gets worse, then give it a lot again. Not like the IM where it's just taking its time. Like, hey man, I'm just
When
worried.
it's clinically needed. I saw
Yeah,
somewhere that initially on the manual IM, the blood pressure actually drops 2 minutes and then it goes back up, right? So this is a completely different delivery mechanism.
so basically, and I tweeted this out. If Anaphylm were to be the first rescue approved epinephrine to be approved, none of these agents would get approved after, because it's just the
Hmm.
way the Anaphylm works is exactly the way it should be, because study has shown that when the patient gets enough of epinephrine in a timely manner, the chances of them needing a second dose drop dramatically. So you want them to give a lot right away.
So you think when I actually don't know how this works. So when Anafilm gets approved, I think they'll have what, 3 years, 7 years. We'll figure out what the details on the exclusivity. But you think now they're raising the bar for the new entrants, or does the FDA still compare it to the established first benchmark, or does this elevate the game for future
I
competitors?
I think if Anaphylm is approved, um, I think it's going to destroy the bracketing idea.
Right. Because
I,
what's
I
easier than this? I mean, liquid
because
drops, maybe liquid drops, but I don't know.
yeah, no,
Probably not. Probably
yeah,
not. They would freeze and they would evaporate because it's water based. This is not water based.
right. And so, uh, let me see.
I try to poke holes in this all the time. That's why I'm asking these questions, and
Yeah.
I don't
So
mind
okay.
the
So
haters.
so as promised, I addressed the bracketing. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, I feel really good. The drug works so well, so good. Bracketing is not a rule or a law; it's an idea. Okay, so don't think that now the source will want you to believe. Now. Oh, another thing I need to tell you guys, everybody, if you look through from the beginning until the end, Anaphylm was in the bracket overall. Okay, so only when you break it down at a certain time frame where it got out. Okay, but you look at the average epinephrine concentration in the body, it is within the bracket. Okay, so the CEO also made that point as well. All right.
So only during the 45-minute of the single dose study
Yep.
did it fall out of bracket. For
Yep.
every other data point,
Yep.
did they did they do this for the pediatric study?
No, no. The pediatric trial was, like the CEO said, it's very simple. Okay, they had no, comparators. All they want to look at is what is and there's no need really. Um, they just want to look at the concentration and compare that to the adult population because they already have the comparators, okay, in the adult population. So it's going to be the same.
But the
Um,
but the data was within bracket as well for that one. If you superimpose it over the
yeah.
other charts.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, and they're going to compare that to adult, and
Mhm.
then how is that going to fit in the bracket?
Yeah,
Okay.
because one of the questions on the Twitter today that or X, sorry, that I promised to ask was why did they not mention the PD data in the pediatric trial? They just mentioned PK, and they said with no safety issues. But they were wondering, are they hiding something by not mentioning PD data? Or I gave them my reasonings.
Who
Like you said,
who is
PK is
that
more
person?
important.
Who is that person that asked? Or
Uh,
is that somebody that
let me.
always
I haven't seen this one before. This is David Faz. Sorry, hold on. This is
Fazal?
Kindbach. Kindbach.
Okay, okay. So
Somebody new. Might be a burner though. I mean, this is somebody with 3 followers, but
yeah,
uh,
no. Let me go ahead and answer that question.
yeah,
Okay, because it sounded like, well, it could be. Let me give them the benefit of the doubt.
yeah.
It could be an honest question. Why was PD not
Mention.
not looked at, right?
No, it was looked at, but they didn't mention it in the results yesterday or whenever they released it the other day.
The did you know the PD information was there? You know what the PD is? The
Hmm.
PD is the safety. That's the PD.
They were more concerned about like heart rates, blood pressure, like the details. You
All
know.
of that will be released. But again, well tolerated, no severe,
I know. I
no
know.
no no severe reaction or anything. It,
Listen, when they send this kind of stuff, I take it as a challenge. Like, okay, this is
yeah,
the if I could answer this satisfactory and I still have conviction, I need to buy more.
yeah.
The
No. Yeah, yeah. So it's again. So what they may be thinking too, though, is how come this trial did not address any symptom relief? Well, because there were no allergen given. These were healthy patients
yeah,
that probably has no allergy. This is strictly
it's unethical
measuring
to give.
concentration.
Yeah.
Okay, so they may be thinking, how come they didn't and you answer, the swelling,
Yep.
the vasoconstriction? No, none of that was looked at. It
I
was
ran it through Grok. the AI, and it's basically told me the same thing. There is no comparator because of ethical reasons. You don't give children the allergen, you don't give them, and then you
Well,
don't.
well, we did the allergen test, but we cannot, trying to create anaphylaxis. That's all. But this trial
Correct, correct,
not. This trial was basically almost, you can say, a strictly PK trial
correct,
because we know it's gonna work.
correct.
We just, but people forget that the PD, the safety is part of PD and not PK.
Yeah,
So
and the title of the study did say PK and PD, and I work in
yeah,
research. These sponsors collect everything. If
yeah,
you're spending this much money on a trial, you're collecting every. They even collect quality of life surveys from the
yeah.
patients, like
Now
things that and they probably
I,
did this in this one as well.
I can tell you that this is more from a short or someone trying
It
to.
looks like a burner account, no
Yeah,
picture.
you know why that is? Because if a person that asks an honest question, they wouldn't be saying, "Hey, are they hiding something?" An investor wouldn't asking it that way. You know, an investor would ask, "Hey, I noticed I didn't see any PD info." When the PD is the safety info, they say it's safe. There were no outliers of any sort. Okay, so, but when they phrase it in that way, like, hey, I think they're trying to hide something. Yeah,
It
I know.
was David Fazal who initiated this conversation.
Yeah,
So interesting press release that omits any discussion of PD
yeah.
results.
I blocked that guy, and
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
came from him. I
yeah,
promised them I would address it.
yeah,
At, I mean, I get annoyed with them too, but if I can satisfactory answer or with AI or with you, you know,
yeah,
answer these questions and still be okay with the results. I like to be questioned, but when it comes to like trying to market manipulate or trying
yeah.
to, I told the one guy today, why don't you just buy SPRY since you like it so much and sell your AQST? I wouldn't do that. Are you
Yeah.
kidding? I
Um.
wouldn't do that.
Yep. Any other questions, Dan?
No, because you addressed a lot of them, and then I brought up. I think an important thing you didn't bring up that you brought up last time was the market studies they've done with how likely are you to return home if you forget your EpiPen
Yeah.
versus if you forgot your phone.
Yep.
And 100% people said I'm returning for my phone, which is where your Anaphylm will be, and like 10% said for my EpiPen.
Speaking personally for me,
Mhm.
okay, if I jump in my car, it's like the first thing I ask is, "Where's my phone?
Yep.
Where is my phone?" And I've been saying this a lot. The
Yep.
fact that Anaphylm can fit on the back of the phone, it becomes an extension of a person, becomes part of their life, daily life. These are the words from the company. These are, I know they're marketing words, but it's real. They're real, and it's unmatched. Okay, so there's on Snack Safely, they announced that there's a new company coming out with a smaller version of EpiPen, tiny. And I was gonna tweet it out and take a picture and say DOA, dead on arrival. Okay,
Why?
because it is still a device. People are still gonna forget it.
So
Nobody's
that their
not gonna.
response, they're already preparing with a smaller EpiPen, like
A different company, not EpiPen. Yeah.
because they're generic now, so you can make it a
Yes.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
again, it's not gonna sell to anyone. The moment Anaphylm is approved, I don't understand the thought process of the CEO. When you know the film is about to be approved, why are you bringing the needle to the market?
Hmm.
Nobody's going to prescribe that. Nobody. Okay. I don't get it.
Listen to this anecdotal. So now I've been asking everyone I know, friends, family, people that work for me, work with me that I know have allergies. What kind of doctor prescribe your EpiPen? This is me to someone that works with me. What kind of doctor prescribe your EpiPen, and how often do you refill? prescription. I'm doing my own market research, Dan Barber. You're welcome, man. She said, my primary. I haven't refilled it in years. The one I have is expired. Then I said, okay, do you carry it daily? No, I should, but I don't.
There you go.
So that's it. Now I said, if it fits on the back of your phone and it's like a Listerine strip, would you do it? Oh, absolutely no brainer. So you can ask guys, try this at home. Play this game at home.
Listen to me, man. I keep saying the same thing. I've been doing this for 19 years. I know what the preferred drug delivery route is. It's oral. Since the beginning of time, the first medication was invented. It's probably to be taken by mouth.
Yeah.
Okay, not a spray. And another thing that people don't know is one of the instructions for Neffy, because it's got holes on the tip, right?
Mm.
Where it instructs patients to not press against the septum, which is the middle of the nose. When you press against the septum, it's not going to come out right. Well,
if you're doing it to a friend, you don't care where you're pushing it. You're
yeah.
trying to get
Another
that
thing
thing
is,
in.
if it drips out and it's in the PI, you may not get the full dose. Oh, hell. Can you imagine life and death situations and you worrying about being pressed, touching the skin somewhere in the nostril, and you may not get the full dose, or you may get in the full spray, but yet it's dripping out? With Anaphylm, you don't have to worry any of that.
Well, the one that you're worrying me about now, which I haven't considered, is the smaller EpiPen. I'm not gonna lie. When you mentioned that right now, I got scared. A little bit. I'm not afraid. Like, I think this gets approved. I think when it gets approved, the shorts come out with more fear. Oh, well, it's not gonna sell. The same ones. Listen, I predict it right now. The same ones that are talking so good about SPRY Neffy, they're gonna be using Neffy as a comparator. Look what happens when they don't sell. Look what happens. I already know that's coming. I already know
So,
they're gonna use that now.
Sherry Kozinski was asked during the Q4 call about the market.
Mhm.
She goes, the market now goes from needle to non-needle, to needle-free.
Yeah.
She said, in the future, the battle is going to be no longer between a needle or non-needle, but about device or non-device. And guess who wins? So you see here how Anaphylm is actually 2 steps ahead. EpiPen, a smaller EpiPen, a nose spray, and then Anaphylm. It's 2 steps ahead. When you come out with a smaller EpiPen, you're just
Sure.
1 step ahead of EpiPen. You're still behind
Sure.
Neffy. You are still
Sure.
behind Neffy. You still are a needle. Sorry.
They're gonna have, from what I understand, I guess they'll release this. They'll cross this bridge when they get there. Between 3 to 7 years of exclusivity before generic competition.
Uh, you
From what
you
I read.
you talking about the small EpiPen, the smaller the
No,
deal?
for Anaphylm. Do you happen to know that? How, like, the exclusivity, if they do get approved, how long it would be?
Oh, it's gonna be a while.
I thought it was like 3 to 7 years, no?
Oh no, no,
Oh, okay.
no. It's
Okay.
yeah, no, it's 15, just like everybody else.
Okay.
Even
Okay.
though it's going through the drug protocol, but all the patents, everything's still in play.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's you know,
Watch, we already assume this get approved. We're already thinking about the next step. But some people are stuck in the past. They're still thinking this thing doesn't get approved. Uh, Worst case CRL, like Neffy.
okay, yeah. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, people are afraid of that as
You know,
well.
the reason why I says 99% of business to 1% CRL. But you see, and I tweeted about this. The I think it's probably the most important tweet I ever tweeted about AQST
Yeah.
is the lessons that we could learn from Sprite, the entire process. Okay, their shareholders went through hell. They applied for NDA. They had the NDA delayed the approval. Okay, fine. And then the FDA delayed approval or review. And then the FDA said, "Oh yeah, everything looks good. We don't need anything else. We're going to ask you to do an extra trial, a repeat dose on the congestion, nasal congestion, just to make sure." But that's after you get approved, after promotion, after marketing. It's called post-marketing trial. Happens all the time. And then bam, you need to do that trial, CRL.
Yeah.
You know, and the share price dropped approximately 70% in 2 days. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like 20 million, depends on the trial, but maybe less because it's only one site that they need. So,
yeah. So, you know, so with Anaphylm, a CRL is a possibility for every drug ever applied to the FDA. Again, let me re-emphasize, in my 19 years in the pharma industry, I have not seen or studied or read about a drug with the efficacy and safety profile like Anaphylm that's been rejected. Never. Never. I've never seen it. And you know what? I put my money where my mouth is. Dan knows how many shares I have. I have a lot. Okay? So I'm in it with everybody. Okay? If we got CRL, I'm going to have some more money on the side to buy the dip.
you buy more.
Yeah. Because just like Neffy, it revolutionizes epinephrine treatment up to that point.
Sure.
It will get on the market. The market wants it. The
Not to speak
community
of,
wants it. The same thing with Anaphylm. The allergy community, they want this.
everyone I asked that I know
Yeah.
suffers with allergies, because that same question I read of one of my employees that works for me. I asked the same to my niece, who has very severe peanut allergies. She does not leave home without her EpiPen, but she's excited as hell about this.
Yeah.
So,
So the answer to your question is everyone, even if Anaphylm gets a CRL for any reason, okay, it will be fixed, it will be reapplied, and it will be approved. So the reason why I sent that tweet out about the whole CRL process with Neffy is you have to read the letter from the FDA. Because if the FDA asks, hey, a question, we just want you to do a simple trial on this population doing this, then why would you sell? Because that trial will take about 2-3 months at most.
for this indication, yeah. If that was the case for alopecia, no, that would be longer. But for this indication, yeah, absolutely. It's a quicker, cheaper, easier.
Yeah. And so there's no guarantee. That's why I said 99.
CRL for many is a death sentence because it means they go out of business. It's a lot of money. But in this indication, it's quick.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a future AQST bag holder right there too.
Yeah. So, and then let me see. Oh, and then finally, AQST 108.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that because
this, Dan, and I was the first one to ever mention it. This is bigger than Anaphylm.
I know, and I want to ask you because you tweeted something I can't remember. After alopecia, you said there's more indications, and you gave your very thoughtful best guess. So, but let's go through alopecia. Maybe people don't know because there's more to this company, guys, than just Anaphylm. There's the Adrenoverse. There's the Adrenoverse for a reason.
There's one question that was asked of me 2 days ago. As the bears were rising, or the roaches, I call them, that calling the company a scam, calling me a scammer is all
That's
lie.
true. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Before we get into alopecia. Okay, one more thing I forgot from stock twits. The last people got pissed off, and these are not shorters. The ones that did get pissed off, they're reasonable people. They got pissed when Barber. They said Barber promised. They're starting to attack his character. They promised. He promised he would not dilute. Yet on this last call, they said they would. They would. So can you? Because of this, there he's saying this person was saying, I can't really trust anything he says anymore because he's proven to lie.
Mm.
So if you can address that, they would kill me if I didn't ask you this.
No,
And
no,
yeah,
it's a fair question.
and this is not a shorter. I know this person
Okay,
like, they're as
it's
far as I know, they're not shorter.
yeah, it's a very fair question because during Q4 earning, the question was asked if they had enough, and Ernie
Cash runway. Yeah.
Arnie told to CFO said, we have enough for Sherry to do her launch thing and everything. Okay. Why would you attack the CEO's character when this very offering was announced a year ago in public? It is in the SEC filing. You know why it is called a shelf offering? Okay. It is to say that at any moment, okay, that if we feel like when at the best interest of shareholders in the company to build the business, we will do it. The company announced it a year ago. Okay. Now, the CEO never said, Ernie Toth never said, we will not dilute. But what he's saying, we think we have enough. But you see, no CEO, I've never heard a CEO said, hey, we're going to dilute next week. What do you think is going to happen to the share price? But the thing is, to be fair to the company, they announced the shelf offering and the price dropped back then. It's already taken a hit.
So you get
There,
penalized for it twice.
yes. So companies cannot dilute without telling you first. And they told you that in a form of, an AK or the whatever K that they file. And we all read. I read it. I knew it. I just don't know when it's going to come.
And it
But
was for an institutional investor. From my understanding, only one, but a two? Was it two?
two,
Okay.
one from a current investor and
Ah,
one from a new
a
investor.
new one. Okay.
Okay. And that right there is to me so bullish right there. Okay. Especially um, with a new investor. Okay. Because a current investor could, they could be backholder, they may be averaging down. You can't say that about the new investor, right? But so you there's you can't attack the company. They announced it, okay, and many companies have shelf offering, okay. Even some of the biggest tech companies.
It's a very
Like
common tool.
yeah, Rocket Lab is one.
Yeah.
I love that company. They have a shelf offering right now. Let me see.
They're getting killed.
AUR has one.
You love
Um,
that one.
yeah,
All right.
and
The reason people hate it is because in biotech, the it's a tool used too often by some of the pump and dumps. And so they associate this with
yeah,
anytime it's used with the same kind of company. That's
right.
the philosophy of their anger. But
What I actually really like what they did. So they have $72 million. Okay. And it is going to be iffy for them to make it all the way through. So they said, you know what? Just go ahead and get it over with.
You mean for alopecia?
Yeah, yeah. So let's go ahead and get it done. Let's, you
and
know,
by all the way through, you mean phase 2, or you mean phase 2 and 3?
the thing is, we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but what I'm telling you, an investor right now, is that I trust this company. I trust this management.
I
I
do
trust
too. And what are they, like 5 for
trust what
5?
they do with the money. Look at the way that you can go back all these years, the way they spend money. You can examine that. They have all the SEC documents. They spend the money so wisely. Ernie is a master of managing the money. They are doing a fantastic job.
I
Okay.
think it's a stand-up team. Like,
Yeah.
Sherry won't join a scam. She doesn't need to ruin her
Or
reputation,
Trish.
right? Or Barber himself. I mean, he's
Yes.
been at this company for a long time.
Listen, I know Dan. I don't know him personally, but
We
man,
better get to know. Listen, if this gets approved, he needs to come to the party. We're gonna get him lit.
I I have I have contacts with a lot of them,
Yeah,
uh,
I've been bugging the hell out of them too.
and we definitely gonna try to make it happen.
I've been bugging the hell out of them. I'm gonna jump back on and do it more.
Uh, but briefly on AQST 108.
Yes.
AQST 108. So basically, Anaphylm, that's going to be $1 billion drug. Okay.
Yeah.
AQST 108 for alopecia is going to be 500 to $1 billion drug.
Yes.
But why do I say it is bigger than Anaphylm? It's going to be, if AQC works out, it's going to be 10 times bigger than than Anaphylm, because what it means is proven that that epinephrine can modulate immune responses.
Immunomodulatory effect.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in a way, AQST 108 is kind of like a platform on its own.
It would be the JAK5 inhibitor killer in
Yeah, yeah.
that case.
Okay, so what is going to happen is going to open up all of these autoimmune diseases: atopic dermatitis, psoriasis, eczema, vitiligo. I mean, that is just on the dermatology side. So it's actually going to have its own dermatology division. Did you know?
You mentioned vitiligo now, I remember, right?
Yes.
That's the one.
So each of these, I mean, atopic is like $68 billion TAM on its own. Okay. And okay, ARQT is one of the ticker that I released. It's done really, really well. It has basically one drug, Zarif, for atopic dermatitis and eczema and psoriasis. Okay. And look at the market cap. That's just one drug. But see, that it's a PD4 inhibitor. So that's a different mechanism than a JAK inhibitor. But
Yes.
for vitiligo and alopecia, the only competition is just steroids, which bad side effects, and JAK inhibitor with even worse side effects. So if AQST works out, that means more than likely it's going to open all these other autoimmune diseases open up to AQST 108. It could be AQST 108, or it could be another one with higher concentration, for example. It could be a cream instead of a gel, and things like that. So what I'm saying and somebody asked me, why am I so bearish on Spry? Because even though it already has an approved drug, and so bullish on AQST, even though it didn't have an approved drug. Okay, and that is a really fair question. But if you see, in investing, it's about the future. The reason why I did not invest in Sprite because I knew Anaphylm was going to kill me. Nothing. So I think further down the road, and especially now with AQST 108 and the whole Adrenoverse platform, it's a no-brainer for me. Let me ask you
What
this.
did? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you this, Dan. Now that Nephi is approved, what catalyst does Sprite have left? Let me ask you.
Well, there's nothing. The only ones that they have are like next quarter sales numbers,
And if
which
it
are going to
doesn't
be
do
dismal.
well, and if it disappoints,
Yeah,
what's going to happen, right? But if you look at
I mean
AQST 108,
they could have acquisition, and there's potential, but yeah, no. To your
let me
point, it's
yeah, the other question I have is if you're a big farmer and here's somebody just filed on somebody here at Christ just filed an NDA for a film, would you
yeah.
try to buy Sprite or would you try to buy Questive?
Well, of course, that's a no-brainer. But if
Exactly.
I would still try to buy Spry if my core competency was inhalers or something similar. That there's like some cross what do they call that core competencies shared by the. I mean, but I
The
would steeply
portfolio you
discount
talked
it.
about, yeah, yeah,
Steeply
yeah,
discount it.
yeah.
Steeply discount.
But
Did you mention PDE4 right now?
PD4, that's the ARQT drug. Yeah,
Ah, okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, Zorif.
okay.
And actually, that drug used to um, at AstraZeneca they used that for to treat severe COPD, and for some reason they figure it worked for some other diseases, such as psoriasis is or eczema.
Mm,
It works unbelievably well because I have referred 4 or 5 friends that had psoriasis and they use the reef. They were using some biologics before, and it's still coming back. And Zarif works beautifully. It's totally disappeared. And so, love the company, love the drug. But I'm telling you, AQST 108, and I already tweeted this out. The company basically knows it's going to work because they saw that in the phase one. And another thing that we talked about earlier is that the fact that that AQST is a pro drug, and bam, right here we already in phase 2A/B. So
right.
the R&D cost for Aquestive is much lower, uh,
Much lower. People
than
don't
a
realize
typical.
the
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's
that benefit. And I was wrong. I misspoke at the beginning. It's not a Office of Generics. It's Office of the New Drug, um, which still is not the one with the layoffs. The majority of the layoffs are in the biologics division, biologic and devices. Devices, right? Spry got lucky because that was their department. But this went to the Office of New Drug Applications.
another advantage that Anaphylm provides: no device, baby.
No
I'm telling
device.
you, I there is nothing better than Anaphylm, and there's going to be nothing better after it's approved. It just you
I
can't
know.
can't beat it.
And for you, there's a personal connection. I think a lot of the advocates, a lot of people bash this stock because it seems like they ignore retail. And maybe that's you and me's job. We saw a opportunity for, hey, this is a great company. We're excited about it. We're gonna share more. They're not paying us to do this. They they probably they don't talk to me because I do this. But the fact of the matter is there's still some hatred against this company for not respecting or acknowledging retail. That's the sentiment. I think that's why there's some short interest, and I think that's why there's appears to be more haters than not. But what this company does with the advocacy groups is undeniable. I mean,
No,
they are
okay.
big. They are on every advocate magazine, fair, and those are things you don't really see
So let me
unless you
ask.
actually are interested in that space.
So for those people who holds hatred for AQT about that,
they're
let me
just
ask
salty.
them.
They're a little salty.
Yeah, let me ask them one question. Okay. What kind of love do retail investors get from Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, GSK, AbbVie? What kind of love do they get?
None. No love.
And you know what?
But those are $50 billion
Yeah,
market caps.
but the thing is, Dan, I have seen these tiny biotech company that get on some random podcast. They dilute the hell out of investor, and then they go reverse splitting. I don't want
Yeah.
to talk to Dan Barber on this show. I want him to take care of business. Okay, so you
We
know
could talk to him at the party at
that's right.
the
That's right. So I don't need love from Dan. I just want to get him to get things done. That's all I'm
Well,
asking.
yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, finally, the NIH cuts, the FDA cuts. Do you think that's a curveball in this at all? Like, are you concerned at all about the FDA cuts and how that impacts this NDA?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, and the answer for both, if it's bad or if it's good, is going to be the same because my it goes back to the question that every investor should ask: has the fundamentals changed on the company that I invested in? So if there were these firings and layoffs and there's going to be short staff, the problem is we don't know. So many of the investors' inclination is to sell and high. That is why 99% of retail investors lose money. Okay, they
Right.
hear that something may happen, they sell. That may happen, they sell. If that's the way that you react, then I would suggest to keep your money in your banking account and do not invest. So, so what do I think is going to happen? I I think they first of all, government is too bloated. It needs to be streamlined. The FDA needed to be streamlined, and looks like if they're doing that, I don't think we're going to see any impact. And the debate about the RFK and his view on vaccine and his philosophies and stuff like that has nothing to do with drug approval process. Dan Barber said that he's still working with the same group that approved Nalfie. Oh,
I heard that. I heard
yeah.
that too.
And then one thing that I was gonna cover, and since we brought this up, I'm gonna share you a nugget right now. That
All
is so,
right.
to me, it's so awesome. All right, Libervant. Okay, it got approved, given the ODE to AQST for 2 to 5 year olds. So they've been selling Libervant to these kids who otherwise have to use a rectal gel, right? Norelis, who makes Votaco, doesn't have an indication to that age group. They cannot sell to that age group, okay? But even though they don't have anything for that age group, they appeal anyway of the FDA decision to approve this to this age group. The judge in Washington D.C. ruled in favor of Norelis. Okay, so now AQST cannot basically they have to stop selling um, Libervant to these kids. Okay, but a question said they're gonna appeal,
Yeah.
and here's the key: we are still working with the FDA to find a way to make it still possible for us to get this drug to these kids. So
Right.
why is this important? Why do I bring this up? Remember the number I gave you, 6-0. 6-0 in drug approval. Why? Relationship with the FDA. How do you think the FDA is thinking about Neurelis now the next time they have a drug they want to be approved? The FDA is working with AQST to help kids. Do you see where I'm going with this? How do you think this relationship is going to contribute to the approval of Anaphylm? Dan Barber, that dude is smart. He is a relationship guy. He can lose this battle, but he's going to win that war with Anaphylm. You see? The relationship. They are working with the FDA, trying to help kids.
And they're doing it I mean, they're the good guys in this because the other group, from to my understanding, is not even using the benefits of the patent, right? They're just
No,
wanting.
they can't. They don't have to. That's the thing that is going to
Yeah,
pissing the FDA off. Is that, dude,
yeah,
you don't have an indication to this age group. Why don't you let the question
right.
sell to this age group? But
And
they appeal anyway, and the FDA is working with Aquestive in trying to find a way to negotiate to maybe help the kids still. And to
right,
me, this just another bonus in the another plus to the Aquestive team and their relationship with the FDA.
sure. And in 2027, it opens to adults, right?
Yeah. So no matter what happens, 2027, January 17, 2027 is the first day that Libervan can be sold to everybody. And that's going to be really exciting. Now, that being said, I believe that before Anaphylm is approved, I believe that Libervan will be either outsourced or sold completely. I think it's going to be at least one other store. Yeah.
I think so too. I think right now the entire market is kind of waiting to see what the tariffs and FDA, NIH, especially biotech's been getting killed. But
So that being said, Dan,
mm,
that doesn't change the fundamental of Aquesttive. So what I'm
mhm.
saying to you is what I've been saying. Rule 1, remain calm. Rule number 13, repeat those. Remain calm.
Remain calm and act
Yeah.
accordingly. If you don't like it anymore, sell it.
Yeah.
If you think it's undervalued and you have more money, buy more.
Yeah.
I mean, you can.
People will think, well, how come sometimes I get pretty aggressive toward these bashers? You know why? Because it's my investment, it's our investment. Because
Yeah,
some of my followers, man, they buy like loads of shares. Like one of them has
I saw one
over
tweet today.
500,000 shares or
Yeah,
something.
one dude today said he made like 190 grand in 3 months off of your recommendations.
There you go.
Which this
So
is not financial advice, by the
And,
way.
and, 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 do you know, Dan, how much of that I received from that guy?
Probably zero to a few tweets, maybe.
Zero. Zero. But yet, I'm a scammer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, people think we're trying to promote our own interests, but it's actually the reverse. We found something we like, and then we're happen to use social media, so we're gonna talk about what we like. This is
Yeah,
to
but
you, it's fun. To me, it's fun. I'm in the research industry. You're in the life science industry, so this is our careers as well.
man, it's yeah, and you know what? And one day, all this is gonna come to an end. I'm not gonna do this forever, But when I am doing it, I'm gonna do that to the best of my ability. You're gonna get the facts. You can get the science. You're not gonna
Yeah,
get the BS. And somebody trying to give me the BS, I'm gonna give them the BS.
yeah,
That's just the way it is.
yeah.
It's if I invest my money into it, I'm gonna protect it. I'm gonna fight. I'm not gonna.
Well, and you generally have an answer to everything that people ask. So you're not running from the questions
Yeah,
or the comments.
right.
Blocking the clear trolls is one thing, but I don't block as many. But I like some of them get annoying. I'm not gonna lie, because
Yeah.
it's the
If
same
you
argument.
don't, I would recommend this to block them. And if you don't, do not respond because that's what they
Yeah,
want. Okay.
yeah,
If you have 500 followers and they have one follower, the moment you comment, now you may have 500 people
yeah. They're
seeing that
gaming.
message.
They're gaming the
Yeah.
ecosystem here. I
Yeah.
generally respond initially for a few times. If I feel like it's just other issues going on, I just will block
Yeah.
or stop responding. But yeah, I'm kind of with you on this.
But yeah, so you know, feel free to ask me any question on X.
Hmm.
And again, you know, we all in this together. I
Yeah,
share my knowledge with you, whatever I know. There's the latest information. And one thing you should know by now, if you hear some dollars or whatever, know this fact. And Dan knows this. Nobody knows this company like I do. That's
yeah.
just nobody does.
That's why
Okay.
we have 650 viewers right now, just about like on a random Thursday, Wednesday night.
So, but I'm about to go have dinner with my family. Enjoy talking to you, Dan. Appreciate everyone watching, listening. And I will continue to update you with anything new, any DD that comes along. I will share that with you.
Exciting times ahead for this stock.
I am.
Biotech Scanner, thank you. If you're not following him, go do it. And if you are, well, continue. And do your own due diligence. This is not financial advice. Thank you very much, Biotech Scanner.
Thank you, Dan. Take care.
Thank you guys for
Hey,
watching.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.